I yield to the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Cole.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I want to reflect just a moment, as we all have, on our good mutual friend, John McHugh. I didn't have the opportunity, obviously, to know him in New York. I first got to know him as a politician in 1992, about the same time I got to know you, Mr. King. And, you know, from the very beginning, I was executive director of the National Republican Congressional Committee. John was running in what was a tumultuous year, a very challenging year for incumbents in both parties, an era of very low trust in the institution of Congress and in the politicians who engage in civic activities. And what I remembered was how effortless John McHugh made his victory appear. And he was able to do that simply because the people in his district knew him from long years of public service. And they recognized the quality and the integrity and the character of the man. The fact that he's been reelected 8 times since that first election without ever having a serious contest is a testament, frankly, in a very competitive district, to the excellence with which he represented his constituents and the high esteem in which he was held, frankly, not only by the people that he represented, but by the people in this institution. We all know John as a member's member, somebody who is incredibly thoughtful, incredibly thorough, incredibly bipartisan, and incredibly gracious, while still being amazingly effective in presenting an argument and a point of view. I had the privilege of getting to know John not as a candidate, but as a public official when I arrived in Congress in 2003 and went to the Armed Services Committee and found myself, because I too represent a military district, his vice chairman on the Personnel Subcommittee. And what impressed me about John's performance as the chairman of that subcommittee was his incredible depth of knowledge about all military issues, but particularly his commitment to military families. I remember John taught me what's a very common saying on the Armed Services Committee: you recruit a soldier, but you retain a family. And he thought about those soldiers very deeply. He understood the sacrifice that they made. His intimate acquaintance with, of course, the great 10th Mountain Division at Fort Drum, his wide travels and interaction with military personnel made him understand that it was a social unit and as well as a fighting unit, and how you retained the quality of life in an era of an all-volunteer Army was really crucial to attracting, retaining soldiers and families. I grew up in a military family. And I remember my father leaving after 20 years largely because it was the right thing to do for his family. He didn't want to leave, but there simply weren't the benefits available for your family. John was a big part of moving us toward the kind of support system for families that makes it possible for our soldiers to perform so effectively in the field. I, too, have had the opportunity to travel with John abroad, and I just have to say this as an American, not just as a colleague. I can't think of anybody that I would rather have representing us in a foreign locale and in front of other nations than John McHugh. He exemplifies the very best traditions of public service in this country, and he always handles himself with such incredible grace and incredible wit, and he is so, remarkably, articulate when he's expressing his points of view. I think the fact that he was chosen by President Obama to be Secretary of Honor of the Army speaks incredibly well of both of them. It tells you the manner in which John is regarded by members not only of his own party but the other party, and it also tells you, frankly, that the President has thought profoundly in a bipartisan sense about foreign policy and certainly about the military, where he's tried to recruit the best people he can find to provide the civilian leadership for our forces at a time of war. I can't think of anybody better to fulfill that task than John. Now, I have to say there's a lot of reasons I'll miss John McHugh, but probably selfishly the best is he smokes a mean cigar. Not only that, he always looks like I always thought I would like to look as a congressman. John looks the part. He could be a movie congressman. He is, he's a handsome guy. He's extraordinarily well dressed, And when he smokes that cigar, he's so amazingly sophisticated. And by the way, he knows a lot about them. But I just want to close by saying it's been a great personal privilege and honor to serve with somebody like John McHugh. And I wish every American had the opportunity to know that Congress is indeed populated by people like John. That they come here, he's not flamboyant. He's not the sort of person that is ever going to lose his temper or create a scene. He just does his job with excellence and professionalism and decency and courtesy every day. And I can't think of an individual who is as knowledgeable or as suited to lead the United States Army as a civilian secretary in a time of war than John McHugh. So I want to thank my friend for his years of splendid service in this House, frankly, thank him a little bit early for his service to our country, because I have no doubt he will discharge his duties as the Secretary of the Army. And I want to express my appreciation to the President of the United States for making such a wise and such a bipartisan choice. With that, I yield back to my friend.
Thank the gentleman from Oklahoma for his remarks. I must say I agree with him completely that Congressman McHugh